And next up is Kara. Tips on colors, textures. You guys take notes.
Well, it's good to be here tonight. My name is Kara Roosevelt, and I'm from Hills of Washington. I've been a designer for about 6 years, and I enjoy it very much. And tonight I'm here to help you guys achieve your dreams and your goals. How many of you would like to pull up to your driveway and say, "This is my house, I live here"? And walk into your front door and say, "Oh my gosh, this is the best place on the block. This is the only place that I want to be." Because why? It reflects you, and it reflects what you want in your home. And that's what we're here really tonight to achieve, because doing that will make you happy. So I have about 5 tips, pretty simplified. Of course, we can get into this for hours and hours and hours, but these are simplified tips that can help you get to that point and really discover who you are and what you want. So for tip number 1, when you're building a home, I always suggest that you pick out the big things first. And what are those, you might ask? Well, usually they're one of the most expensive things, and typically they kind of are what you start to begin to build the design off of. One item would be, like for the interior, would be your granite countertops if you're going to do that. And usually people know right away, that's what I'm having, okay? Granite countertops are extremely, there's a lot of different ones to choose from. However, they're made by the earth, and so you don't have a lot of control over colors. So you have to pick the ones that have what you need and build off that. And maybe your hardwood floors if you're going to do hardwood, and many people choose to do that these days. And there's a good way to do that and a bad way to do that. So, well, not really bad, I guess, but good and better and best. So, exterior-wise, I would maybe say that it would be your roofing. And why would you say that? Because roofing now, you can do it in many different styles and colors, and it's one of the largest things that you see on the outside of your house. So let's say, for instance, you pick a kind of a dark chocolate brown roofing. You're not going to want a dark chocolate brown house, because then your roof and your house are going to be the same color as the dirt outside, and not very exciting for anybody. So let's say you pick a dark chocolate brown house, and you go with a very nice light tan on the outside with a pretty cream trim. Now are you getting the picture? Okay. So the roofing is very, very incredibly important. So that's tip number 1. Pick your big things. And especially if, for instance, in the granite, if you're going to walk in that door, most of the homes nowadays are way open. And so you don't just see the living room. You don't just see the dining room. You see the living room, the dining room, and the kitchen all at once. So that granite, or that big item that you choose, is going to have a very large impact over what? The entire space. Okay? So your colors really should coordinate with that big item. So it's one of the first things that I have my clients pick out. Okay, so tip number 2 would be a theme in your home. Now, many of you already have one in your existing home that you have. Many of you have one and don't know you have one. And many of you are still trying to discover that theme. Well, a way to sort of discover your theme is to kind of walk through your home. And this is the first exercise I do before I meet with somebody. I'll say, okay, I want you to walk through your house, and I want you to pick out your very most favorite thing, the thing that makes you feel good inside, the thing that when you come home, you're always happy to see it. Maybe it's a piece of art. Maybe it's plates from your grandma. Maybe it's an Afghan. You know, I designed an entire house around a blanket one time. And I had one client, and this was really funny, because I said, okay, Vicki, we have to figure out what your theme is. You know, you've got to give me something to work on, because she kept saying, you know me. And this guy, well, you got to give me something. So she hands me this, she tears out this page out of a magazine. Well, it was a Bride magazine. And on the front of the Bride magazine, it had a lady, and she was holding a bouquet of flowers, and the background was a color, the flowers were a color. And I looked at it, and I go, okay, I got it. So what she was trying to portray to me was how she wanted her house to feel. It was a feeling, not so much that she wanted, this Bride magazine hanging on the wall. But so there's many different ways to discover what you like and what your theme is and what you need to follow. And it kind of is just discovering yourself. Okay, so tip number 2, pick a theme. Find your favorite things. Tip number 1, start with the big items. Okay, tip number 3 would be once you've selected those big things, so that's your trim and your hardwood and your granite, and maybe now we've picked out some tile and different things like that, you kind of got your theme, so we've got this chair that we've got all the colors that you love, and we're building off of that. So you see how this is evolving? Okay, so the next thing you're going to be faced with, see, and all of these things are decisions that you're going to have. Your contractors will be going, come on, I need that paint color, okay, I need those 10 paint colors, come on. And so you're going to have these decisions made, and they're hard, because women, we build backwards. Men, you don't so much. Every house that I've ever done, I've picked something and said, oh my gosh, I love these draperies. Let's build your whole living room off these draperies. And the guys are going, what? Oh, we gotta get the plumbing in, we gotta get the wiring in, we gotta get this stuff done, we gotta get this stuff picked out. Well, yeah, I know, but we need to make sure that Aunt Gertie's cabinet is gonna fit between window number 1 and window number 2 in the dining room, right, ladies? Okay, so you gotta think kind of together, and guys, you have to kind of listen to these ladies because they know where they want Aunt Gertie's cabinet. So maybe those big windows that are gonna follow that whole bank of the dining room aren't gonna work. Maybe we need a shorter one and 2 to flank it. Okay, so that brings us to texture. So after we've got all of these other hardwoods, because textures on the walls, that's what they're going to say. Okay, what kind of texture do you want? And if you don't answer them, girls, they're going to give you orange peel. And orange peel isn't always pretty. And if you don't tell them you want square corners on your house, you're going to get round corners. Have you ever tried to split a paint color on a round outside corner? Horrible. Don't ever pick round corners. Unless you love them, then you do that one. Yeah. But typically, I like the square corners because when you start taking like an accent wall, let's say we pick this an accent wall, and this wall is going to be a different color, and then we have to turn the corner and go around. If it's round, we have to take a line down, and then you have to kind of have one color on one side. It never really looks quite right. So then I'm always trying to go into an inside corner, and then it makes too much of one color. So take your textures and tell your drywallers, I want square corners. Because the standard in the industry today pretty much is round. Everybody's doing the round corners. They're kind of going back to the square now, but they're not going to ask you. So you need to be sure that if that's important to you, you let them know. You also need to be sure that if it's important to you, you tell them, I don't want any texture on that bathroom wall, I want it smooth. Or you're going to get orange peel. What other kind of textures are there out there? Does anybody know? Top of your head. You know there are many. I'm going to just touch on like 4. So there's the smooth. You'll see that in a lot of office buildings because they have to change colors a lot and touch up, so that's easier because you don't get the light hitting on the different textures. The second one is the orange peel standard. The third one is what's called lace brocade or a knockdown. And many times you'll see that on ceilings. And what they do is they'll spray on with a machine a big, heavy, blobby texture, and then they take a blade and they'll knock it down, and it creates kind of a lace effect. Now that's very beautiful in a lot of different types of homes. And I like using those a lot with beams, beam structures, because it kind of gives you the feeling of old world without the cost. Now, the next style of texture would be, I have a board over there, you ladies can put your hands over it later if you want to. It's a hand trowel texture. And some of you may be liking the idea of like an old world feel, like an Italian villa wall.